familiarize yourself with creative real estate, meaning that you need to familiarize yourself with the non-traditional ways of doing real estate, okay? So if you have an interest in real estate, or if you feel like real estate investing can benefit you, all I'm saying to you is, in your pursuit to get information and education about real estate, make sure that a part of your education is in the creative real estate investing space. Learn about creative real estate investing. That's all I'm saying, okay? So today, I'm gonna just take a few minutes to talk to you about the five creative real estate investing strategies, okay? There are so many ways you can invest in real estate creatively. These are considered like the common five, all right? So number one is wholesaling. Wholesaling. Now, a lot of laws are changing for wholesalers. And I think just within the last maybe couple days, I know 1 or 2 states have already created some type of legislation, but I know just recently we've had more and more states that they basically clamping down on wholesaling. And so when you do a certain amount of wholesale deals, a lot of states are now requiring you to have a real estate license. Like, you have to have a license like a real estate agent in order to do it. Either way, wholesaling ain't going nowhere, okay? Wholesaling takes place not just in real estate, but in businesses and everything. Everybody wholesales, okay? Somebody gets an item or a product or have a service, and they get it for one price and they sell it or offer it to other people for another price. That's the wholesale play, okay? So in creative real estate investing, wholesaling is a strategy that involves you as a wholesaler securing a contract on a property and in turn selling that contract to an investor. And again, all you got to do is just browse the internet. All you have to do is go to YouTube and type in creative wholesaling, and I'm sure you're going to find a lot of people that are already wholesalers. Now, one of the differences between a wholesaler who is creative and a wholesaler who's not creative is how they structure the deal that they're going to get under contract. That's one of the biggest differences. So that's why what I'm sharing with you today in terms of the 5 creative real estate investing strategies, okay, these strategies are creative because they're out the box. How you do them is different than the conventional person or the traditional person, just like wholesaling. Most people who wholesale, they're going to wholesale the conventional or the traditional way. They're going to look at the ARV of the property, the after repair value. They're probably going to deduct maybe 30% for closing costs, for profits, or for other expenses. They're going to deduct repairs, and that's going to help them to determine how much they can offer that particular seller. All right, it's going to be at a discounted price. In today's world, they may deduct more than 30%. They may offer way less than, let's say, 40% off or 50% off. They might offer 60% off depending on the deal. But all I'm saying to you is the reason why wholesaling is a creative real estate investing strategy is because if you know other creative ways to purchase real estate, like subject to owner finance or some strategies that are like that, wholesaling will be even more beneficial, because there are some wholesalers, when they do it the traditional way, once they do their numbers, once they underwrite the deal and look at the ARV, deduct 30%, deduct the repairs, and then they come up with a price that they can offer, with a number that they can offer the seller, and the seller tells them, I can't afford that, then guess what's going to have to happen? Well, they're going to have to pass that deal up, where a creative wholesaler will say, well, what if we structure some type of creative term where we don't pay off the existing loan? So creative real estate investing is powerful. The first strategy is wholesaling. And again, if you've never been in a position to wholesale a deal, I highly recommend that you learn wholesaling, you understand the logistics, the ins and outs of wholesaling, and preferably get with a wholesaler who's doing wholesaling so that you can see how it plays out, because it could play out different ways and you want to make sure that it's right. This is one of the reasons why I think some legislators and states are cracking down on wholesaling, because you got a lot of people who trying to do it and they don't know what they're doing. They just think they pushing a piece of paper. They get a contract over here, they secure it, and then they come over here and say, you could buy this contract for this amount and I want something in the middle. Well, it's more to it than just pushing a piece of paper. You're still assuming the role of an investor when you're dealing with the seller, from the perspective that you have to be ethical. You gotta have that person's best interest at heart, the seller. You gotta solve their problem. You can't leave them worse than where you found them. And then if you are not taking care of that seller and then you assign that contract to a buyer, you're basically putting the buyer, the end buyer, in a worse position, because they're dealing with a seller that you didn't get the terms clear with. I've seen this happen before. I know some very, very bad wholesalers, but I know some very, very good ones, okay? So wholesaling is strategy number one. Number two, lease option. This is definitely a creative strategy. And again, it could be a conventional way of doing real estate deals, but it's more creative. I wouldn't choose this at first if I was looking at a deal, but a lease option is a strategy. This strategy involves a contractual agreement that gives you, the investor, as a renter, a choice to purchase the rented property during or at the end of the rental period. That's why we consider it a lease. This is one a document, and then an option. That's another document. So if you are using lease options to acquire properties, you're going to have a lease that should give you the ability to sublease. You're going to have an option to lock in a certain dollar amount that if you decide to exercise that option before or on the date the lease ends or your option expires, you are able to buy it at a certain price. Okay? This is going to be very important for you in the event that you do a lease option and then you lease it to somebody else or give somebody else an option, which is kind of similar to how you do a wholesale, where I get a lease, I get an option from a seller. I have the right to take that lease and option and either assign that lease and option to someone else, like a wholesaler, or to lease it to someone else and give someone else an option. But you have to make sure you're working with an attorney, and you should be working with an investor who helps you understand the logistics of that type of transaction, because you have a transaction between you and the seller, and then you have a transaction between you and another end buyer. Nevertheless, lease option is the second creative real estate strategy. Now, this is one I think a lot of people don't look at as a creative real estate strategy, but I think it is. Private money lending. Private money lending, in my estimation, is a creative real estate strategy, because if you have money that you can lend to a wholesaler or to an investor who is working deals, whether your private money lending is on the transactional side of the deal or whether you're actually investing or lending your money long term to the investor because they're doing fix and flips or buying wholes, it's creative for you if you're the private money lender, because you're able to yield a higher interest rate simply because you got money. You bringing money in the deal, but you don't have to assume the responsibility. Like, for example, you could partner with somebody and you could be the investor. You have the skill set. You know how to go find a deal and put a deal together. And then you could bring another partner in who only has the money or the credit, let's say. And in this case, they have the money. And then y'all partner together, right? And then y'all do a deal and purchase a piece of real estate, whether you flip it or whether you buy it and hold it. Well, if that person who's bringing the money is actually a partner, they have to assume half that responsibility. So they're just as responsible for crazy stuff that come up as you are as the investor. If they're not a partner, if they're just a private money lender giving you money and they're securing their private money with that property, then guess what? They're not going to be up at night wondering how they're going to fix the problem that just came up. You, the investor, will. They just going to get their paycheck, they payment every month, or their one-time payment, however you structure the deal. So private money lending, this strategy involves individuals, not institutions. That's why it's called private money. These are individuals who lend their own capital to other investors while securing their loan with a mortgage or a deed of trust against an investment property. So that's where a private money lender is going to have a security deed against that property that the investor is buying. So you're not just giving somebody money, wiring money to their bank account and hoping, crossing your fingers that they pay you back. No, what's going to happen is the investor is going to have a deal that they're in the process of buying. Sometimes they have already bought it, and they're going to approach you as a private money lender. They're going to give you an offer that, hey, if you lend this much money, we're going to draft a promissory note, a deed of trust, depending on what state you're in, and we're going to have the attorney to look over these documents, and the investor will actually sign so they can notarize those documents. The attorney is going to record that deed as a security instrument against that property so that whatever money you wire or your company wires the attorney, that money is going to be a part of that lien, if that makes sense. But that's a very creative strategy that you can use to get into real estate investing. And I know people who don't want to get into the risk side of the real estate deal. In other words, they don't want to be the ones having to go out to the properties, having to find contractors, having to deal with inspections and renovations and tenants. They don't want to deal with that. They just want to be the lender on the deal. They want to be the bank on the deal, which is like the most powerful position you can have in a real estate transaction anyway. That's being the lender, being the private money lender, okay? So that's number 3. The fourth creative strategy for real estate investing is what is typically called seller financing. Seller financing. And again, we ain't even talking about all the documents that you need, because some of this stuff you don't even need to concern yourself with, especially if you're just getting started in real estate investing and you want to be a creative real estate investor. What's most important to you is to know that it exists, and that there are people who can teach it to you, who can work with you, like coaches and mentors, and being a part of communities. And once you learn the ins and outs and you start putting deals together, then the paperwork and the documents and all the legalities and the logistics, they become important at that point. They're not really important. I know a lot of people, they get into real estate investing, or they claim that they're going to get into real estate investing, and they so focused on documents. Let me get my paperwork right. Let me get this. None of that ain't going to get you no deal. You could get pre-approved for a loan. You could get your documents, your forms. You can download till the sky turns purple. If you ain't got no deal, none of that paperwork and none of that information is going to mean anything. So seller financing is the 4th creative strategy. All right. Hopefully y'all learning something. If you're already savvy in real estate, then this is just probably like a repeat to you. But if you're not savvy, if you're not a real estate person and you're just learning the game, this is a game changer, because you learning stuff that a lot of people, even conventional or traditional real estate investors, don't know. So what is seller financing? This strategy involves a private transaction where the owner of the property extends financing to you as the investor without the involvement of the bank. Now, in a typical seller financing situation, the seller is the owner of the property and typically they don't have a mortgage on the property, okay? They don't have a mortgage, so there's no bank involvement. So Mr. or Mrs. Blue, they own this home and they own it outright, and they want to sell it to you for $250,000. And you don't want to go to a bank and get a $250,000 loan and go through the red tape for whatever the reasons are. So you propose a seller financing deal so that they can sell you the house for $250,000, but you all create terms for the amortization of the payments, for the interest rates. You go through a closing, you're going to have the same documents, and instead of a bank lending you the money, they're essentially lending you the money. And very similar to how a private money lender has a promissory note and a deed of trust or a mortgage as a lien, as a security instrument against the property, the seller will actually have that. And they will be the bank, and you will be paying them payments every month, and you will own the house, and the deed will be transferred. So it's a powerful creative strategy. Seller financing is very common in commercial real estate. It's very common in residential real estate. It's just not common for people who are not commonly practicing it. But it's something that happens, okay? And number five, the fifth creative real estate strategy is what we call subject to real estate investing, subject to, which is under the umbrella of seller financing. And there are times, many times, where both of them work hand in hand. Let's say, for example, if a seller owns a home, and back to that example I gave you, it's a $250,000 home, and they owe $100,000 to the bank, let's say, and but it's $150,000 worth of equity, and you're going to buy it for $250,000. Well, if you take it subject to, that means you're going to take over that $100,000 loan that they have, that the seller already has on it, but that $150,000 equity, you may do a seller finance. So that will be an example of bringing both of them together. But subject to, as opposed to seller financing, you're buying the property, but it is subject to an existing loan that's already on there. So where seller financing, there's no loan, there's no mortgage. With a subject to transaction, there is a mortgage, and that's why you're buying the home subject to. It is still subject to that particular loan. So again, there's a lot that you have to learn in order to effectively and efficiently execute these types of creative real estate strategies. Nevertheless, these strategies exist. And there are thousands upon thousands of people that perform these strategies every doggone day of the year. If you're skeptical about these types of strategies, if you feel a little iffy about these types of strategies, it's only because you don't have enough knowledge and enough experience. You haven't been around people who are actually doing them. There's nothing illegal, there's nothing unethical about these strategies. They are creative, they're not conventional. If you're talking to people who are not creative investors, who are not creative real estate agents, who are not creative wholesalers, who are not creative lenders or attorneys, all these different professionals who participate in real estate investing, if you're not talking to people who are creative, they may frown at some of these strategies only because they don't do them and they have an opinion about them. But you will find people, if you are intentional about it, you will find people who understand the ins and outs of them, like me, like my attorneys, like my real estate agent, like my transaction coordinator, like my staff, like lenders and other professionals that I work with and talk with. They all know. They don't frown upon any of this because they understand it. It's legal, it's ethical, and guess what? If you get into it, you're going to find out it's more impactful, because most of the times when you are doing creative real estate strategies, when you are performing them, it's probably because the people who are involved that are selling those properties, they're most likely in distress situations. They have certain situations that have come up that they got to make moves. They have to do something, and they can't do it the traditional or the conventional way. And it's not unusual, y'all. I mean, let me just give you one easy example so you can wrap your mind around it. Let's say someone bought a home this year, 2024. Let's say they just bought a house in 2024, right? Just hypothetically. I hate being a hypothetical, but I know somebody who just bought a house. Okay? So they just bought a house, $300,000, $300K. All right? So let's say a week or so from now, or a month from now, something happens and they have to move. Well, they bought the house for $300,000. The house may still be worth $300,000 because they just bought it, let's say a month or two ago. Are you with me? Okay? So if they had to go and resell the house for $300,000 because they can't sell it for no more, do you think they're going to run into some problems if they try to sell it for $300,000? Yes. Why are they going to run into problems? Well, the person who sold them the house for $300,000 had to give up commissions to real estate agents. They may have paid closing costs, or they may have contributed, depending on how it's worded on their settlement statement. The seller who sold them the house may have contributed certain money so that the lender could lower their interest rate. They could have bought down some of that interest rate. Whatever the case is, if this person tries to sell this same house for $300,000, now they may have to deduct easily 9.5% for commissions. That's 2 commissions, and for closing costs. Easily. I mean, easily right now, a buyer is probably going to need closing costs at $300,000, and then 2 real estate agents. So that's 9.5% you're going to take off of that $300,000. But what if they had all these different add-ons to their loan, and let's say they owe $305,000? Well, in order for them to sell this house, they would literally have to bring $20,000, $30,000 maybe to the table. They can't afford it. So what does that mean? I'm just giving you this example to show you they won't be able to sell their house. They can't go to a real estate agent, put it on the market, and say, I need to sell it. But whatever the life event is, if they just have to move, they have to move. So they're either stuck paying a mortgage if they're on the other side of the world because, they're in the military and they had to be, shipped somewhere else, or whatever the case is, or a family member died, or something happened where they have to move on the other side of the country and now they're stuck, either paying a payment or not paying it and then going into foreclosure, defaulting. It's so many situations that happen every day in people's lives. I'm just giving you this example where now this person can't sell it the traditional way. They need someone like me and you and other creative real estate investors to figure out how can we purchase this home with some type of creative strategy to give you the ability to move on and to give us the ability to actually get a return on our investment. That's one of the reasons why creative real estate investing is so powerful. So I would love to get some feedback from you. If you're watching live, let me know what you think about these 5 strategies. If you want to learn more about creative real estate investing and you do not have a community that you're a part of, we have courses, we have workshops, we have weekly coaching calls, we have events all year long, in addition to an on-demand platform that you can take courses any day of the year from any device, from anywhere in the world. You can learn this stuff on the go. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can educate yourself on creative real estate investing, how to really set your business up the right way and be successful in what you do as an entrepreneur and or as a real estate investor, here's what I want you to do. I want you to reach out to me today. Reach out to me today. We have an amazing mentorship program. It's called our Millionaire Mentorship Program. We actually have it offered today, and we've had it this way for a couple months since we came into 2024. We have an offer that we're extending, and if I'm not mistaken, it's still 50% off. So we're giving members of our community access to our Millionaire Mentorship Program for 50% off. You can get involved. And we have monthly payments, so you can test the program and see if it's working for you. But even before you pay anything, just text the word mentor to one of these numbers, 678-276-8253 or 8556. Or just call the number, okay? And when you call or text, my team and I will reach back out to you. Even before you buy anything or do any type of transaction, ask questions. Find out what it is that we have, and maybe there's some things that you want to do, you might not be sure, so that we can give you some direction on what's the next best step. Maybe you don't even have a business entity set up and you just want to figure out, should I get my LLC set up first? What type of LLC do I need to set up my real estate company? What direction should I need to go? What area do I need to start in? These are the questions that we answer because we are coaches, we are consultants, we're educators, and we're helping a lot of people not just start and structure their enterprises, but scale them through not just selling products and services, but through investing in real assets like real estate. So I look forward to hearing from you. Don't hesitate to call or text mentor to 678-276-8253 or 8556. Screenshot that number so you can give us a call. Give me some feedback too. Give me some takeaways. What was your biggest takeaway? Which one of those 5 strategies that we talked about today, which one you feel like sounds closer to where you are or what you would like to try and do? I'm not going to say like most real estate investors, they will say it this way. It's simple, but it's not easy. Especially once you learn it, it becomes more simple. And the way I teach these strategies is, I think it's a little more simplified how I teach them. You know, I'm a simple person. I don't want things to be complicated. So I want to teach things in a way that simplifies what we do so we can actually do it. If it's too complicated, if it's too intimidating, most people ain't going to do nothing. So I appreciate you all for joining us today live on the show. Give us some feedback. Put it in the comments. Let us know what you think about what we talked about. Maybe there's a topic that you are interested in. Just put it in the comments. We could do a show around it. We could drop some content on it, and we would love to get feedback from you. Again, I appreciate you all for joining us today, and hopefully unless we're tied up doing some deals and we just don't have the time to get on here, we'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, right here, live from the beautiful Buckhead community of Atlanta. Have an amazing Thursday, and